No! So here I got everything unpackaged, and I was going to point out that everything here over is all in one kit. Not this guy. Everything here over is all in one kit. This is the Killshot EFI kit from Aces, and it's very similar to the low-level sniper kit. Of course, there's not very many sniper kits before you get to a super sniper, and then there's a whole bunch of levels after that with Holly. So this is supposed to be your simple sniper type setup where you put it on there and it goes and it self-tunes itself, even self-tunes the idle. So I ended up getting a Killshot EFI setup from Aces Fuel Injection. They're based in Tennessee. Fairly new company. There's not a ton of reviews on them yet. That's why I want to do this one and tell you why I ended up getting this. A lot of it was on sale. And I was going to get a Holly sniper kit, and I like the fact that the ECU is inside of it and it's all contained and it's only 4 wires. That's a huge selling point. But then there were some things I didn't like too. There was a lot of negative reviews on the Holly sniper. I know they've sold a ton, so there's a ton of positive reviews also, but there's also more negative reviews because they've sold a ton also. And the ones I saw didn't make me feel very good because it was always either quality control or waiting too long on the phone, even though the customer service is good. I'm sure they're just understaffed like so many places are. The big thing for me with the Holly sniper was it was more expensive, and the reviews and the fuel injection has, the fuel pressure regulator is internal, and that was probably the biggest deal breaker for me. There's a lot of things that make it a lot more difficult to set up when it has an internal fuel pressure regulator. I have read that it's good for boost, but the fact that I can't manually change the fuel pressure regulator just plain bothers me. And the fact that the Sniper EFI has a fuel pressure regulator built into the back of it, the exit port comes right out of the backside of the fuel pressure regulator. So you're forced to have to do a full-on return fuel system. And I know everybody does that. A lot of people want to do that. But just the fact that you can go return or returnless with something like this makes it a big selling point for me. And if you only had one fuel line already and you didn't want to mess with stuff, and I'll get into the reason I wanted a returnless in a second, but that was a big thing for me. And I almost pulled the trigger the other night, and it was on back order. They said they were going to ship it out the next week, and I know how that goes. Sometimes you wait a week, sometimes you wait 2 months, and they already have it back in stock. But the low-grade Holly Sniper EFI was $1,200, $1,180, I think is what it is. And with this, it doesn't matter if it's black or polished, the same price. This was $780 on sale right now. It's 10% off. I don't know if this sale goes on forever. I was going to get this Holly carburetor I found on Marketplace, and I was going to send the guy a message, and the guy wanted $300, and it had a bunch of stuff done to it. It was rebuilt. It had the fancy metering blocks and the little glass on the side so you can see where the fuel level's at. It was a nice carburetor for $300, and I was like, well, how much could I get for $500? How much could I get for $600? And then I was like, oh, well, I'll check out one of those throttle body injection setups. I've done fuel injection now 3 times, and it's always been Mega Squirt, and that was already on a car that had fuel injection, so it was a lot more complicated system, but I was using all the existing components. And I ran across Haggerty's video on the Chevelle with the 396. They put a sniper kit on, and the guy gained, I think it was 4 miles a gallon, 50 pounds of torque, and like 25 horsepower. And the gas mileage is the biggest thing for me, because right now, driving to and from work, there is a lot of starting and stopping, but I'm getting about 8.6 miles a gallon. The one time that I've checked my fuel mileage, I haven't driven enough to check it a second time, even though it wouldn't take very long when you're burning when you're burning a gallon every 8.5 miles. It goes pretty quick, and the fuel gauge doesn't work on that thing. I need to fix that. So I usually every 3 trips I'll fill up. But anyway, 8.6 miles a gallon, not very much. And I was expecting 8. The guy I got that engine from said that he got 8 with a Holly, and you got 9 with the Quadrajet. Quadrajet's even bigger, but it does have small primaries, so you can see that. The saying my dad always used to say with a big block is, well, it only gets 8 miles a gallon, but you can put 10,000 pounds behind it, and it still only gets 8 miles a gallon. So that's just a big block for you. That is the biggest downside of a big block, is crappy fuel mileage. But how many engines do you know that are 454 cubic inches that don't get crappy gas mileage? I also wanted to point out that it comes with a nice little keychain. Comes with stickers in every box. I like stickers. Stickers are great. And it comes with a nice thick startup manual. And even a mission statement on the front saying how dedicated they are to us. That's pretty cool too. This little Edelbrock fuel sump system I got from Summit, and it basically is it's kind of like a fuel pressure amplifier. Basically, my mechanical pump, or whatever pump you have running from your stock fuel tank for a carburetor, will pump into this on the inside, and then it goes into this little sump in here that has a float like a carburetor, and then it has a high pressure fuel pump. It's good for 30 to 90 psi, and then it also has a fuel pressure regulator built in. That's adjustable, and it's also got a vacuum hose on it. So it only takes up this much space. It comes with Russell fuel line. This is $35 by itself. Yeah, now this is $400, but I don't have to pull my fuel tank. I don't have to replace the fuel lines. I don't have to open up Pandora's box with rust, because you know how it is. You take out stuff that's been there forever, and then you're like, oh, I broke this. I got to replace all this crap now. Don't have to do that. All I got to do is pull the fuel line off my carburetor, plumb it into here, plumb the out into here, and cap that off, and I am done. So that is why I went with this. This is genuine Russell hose, and then it also comes with genuine AN fittings to go in the top here, and comes with now they sell this as a $400 piece by itself, and I think it has the AN fittings. But then if you spend $500, you get the fuel line, you get more fittings, a nice fuel filter, all the mounting hardware, and another nipple for your carburetor. But it's similar to the Sniper in the aspect that it is 4 100-pound injectors. It's good for 650 horse. It's 800 CFM. It does have the map, idle air control valve, and intake air temp sensor all built in also. And but the biggest thing is they brag on the fact that their ECU is outside of the throttle body, so you can mount this anywhere. I mean, obviously you want to keep it away from heat, but you can put it on the firewall, you can put it on the fender, wherever, and it seems pretty sturdy. I thought it was going to be plastic, but it's actually aluminum. It's like a giant heat sink with 2 little plastic plugs. And there's some stuff in here I didn't see in other people's unboxing videos, although there's not that many. So be sure and like and subscribe, guys. I really appreciate you watching the video I posted a couple days ago on the 83 C10. It might be a record for me. Almost 700 views in one day. That's pretty cool. Maybe we can get to 1,000 subscribers and I'll get monetized one day. Maybe. I know I haven't been consistent, but the only reason I'm getting this done is because they went from 10-hour shifts at my job to 8, and I have an extra 2 hours every day to do stuff. So, I mean, it's the downside is we're slow at work, but the upside is I have 2 extra days. The upside is I have 2 extra hours every day until we get busy again, and that is nice. I don't get that very often every year. So, but yeah, it comes with all your typical stuff here. It does have a grommet for a hole in your firewall. You can put your wiring harness through here. Comes with all the factory gaskets and mounting hardware for the throttle body. Your typical 4150 Holley spacing. O2 sensor, and it's got a clamp-on O2 sensor gasket, so you can just drill a hole, clamp this on the outside of your pipe, and seal up your O2 sensor. The monitor is impressive. It's about the size of my cell phone. It's way bigger than a little square Holley Sniper. And I didn't see this in the description, but it also has a suction cup for a window. So you can put this, you can mount this in there and not have to put a permanent mount. on your dash. I don't want this in my truck. I just want it in my truck to tune. I don't want it on the dash all the time. I think they look tacky. To each their own, but with this truck, I wanted to keep everything error correct, and that's some of the reason I wanted a carburetor set up at first. And I didn't think I'd be getting the fuel mileage, or I didn't think I'd be worrying about going to fuel injection, but when I saw that somebody gained 4 miles a gallon with fuel injection on a big block, that was a lot of incentive for me to try. And my favorite thing is to try and get as much power out of the engine as possible. I really like tinkering with fuel injection, and a lot of guys just want to build the truck and drive it, and I mostly want to tinker with it. And every time I drive it, I'm like, what else can I do to this? And that's the fun thing for me. So, but the screen, I like it a lot. The label Aces is at the bottom. They went through a lot of detail on this stuff because their logo is on everything. And the logo was kind of a seller for me too. It looks old school. I'm really into 70s and 80s stuff. So also the wiring harness on this seems very straightforward. And it comes with all the relays. Everything's labeled very clearly. The only thing I bought extra was tuning wire because I already have a laptop I tune with, and I'm going to go straight to the computer after it self-tunes for a couple days and speed things up. So, and on the bright side, this does do ignition. This does do ignition also, and it's plug and play with their distributor, which is basically a copy of an MSD billet distributor. Looks just like the Holley ones. Same thing with the coil. It looks just like a Holley coil. It is their Blackjack Pro Series. The coil is actually like $3 or $4 more than the Holley one. It's $50, I think. I think Holley's getting 46. But then the distributor is on sale right now. Their ignition stuff's off 20%, and the distributor is $165, I think, and the one from Holley is $350, I think. It was over $300. I think it's on here, but anyway. So yeah, this is all one kit minus this. It also came with a USB adapter. Also says Aces on it, real tiny. That goes in the top of this for your laptop for a USB adapter. And they also say don't use HEI distributors with these, but then in their manual they have a picture of an HEI distributor on the wiring diagram. I mean, you know what an HEI distributor looks like from the top, and it looks just like that. And I also read online that Holleys don't like them, but Holley also has a picture on their manual of a HEI distributor. So, in case you get confused, they say the HEI distributors put off a lot of noise, and I don't know how much noise it would bother this, depending on how far away you got it from the distributor. But if you look on one of their YouTube videos, Aces is actually doing a video. One guy puts it on a C10 on there, and it has an HEI distributor. He starts it, runs it, everything. So that's even more confusing. But I already had an HEI. I didn't want to chance it. I don't know if they have issues or not, but online I read some places that they did. They do tell one guy, so he says, that he shouldn't run HEI, even though what I just told you. So I went ahead and bought this. It was on sale. I figured, why not? And it comes with all this. And this has a direct coil igniter, just like Megasquirt does. It's an IGBT chip, I think is what it is. So a lot of features. I think you get a lot for your money, assuming everything works out okay. We'll see what happens. So I'm starting to mock up the fuel on this thing, and my Edelbrock fuel sump system is going to be mounted right over here next to the fender. And as you can see, when you get down here, the clearance is getting pretty close to where the hood would be, because you got this big rib down here that hangs down lower than the body line, of course. And also we got this big hinge, and it comes way out here when it closes. So as this is folding, it's coming out further, so you also have that clearance to worry about. So my idea was to make a mount right here, and then it also comes with the mounts to mount this really close to flush, but we have to have this gap on the inside to clear this hinge. So I was going to show you how I check clearance like that. So here I have some some silly putty on here, and I just wanted to, it's kind of flimsy. I got some half-cocked silly putty here. Stay up. Okay. I think it's up. So I got the silly putty on here, and this is going to be kind of like claying a cylinder. Kind of like claying a piston in a cylinder. So I just put some on there. Actually, you know what I should have done? So we'll just take some of this silly putty and put right there on top of the highest point, because that's going to be the most crucial, and see how much it gets squished. So we'll just close our hood here, and like I said, you can see how the clearance tightens up pretty close here, and it's just, gosh dang it, I can't hold this in. You can see how close that is. And it's hitting. We're gonna have to go out a little bit further. All right, looks like we have plenty of space, so I'll mark this, and obviously it's not straight, so it's gonna be a little further in anyway, but it's closer now than it would be when it's mounted, so we know we have clearance. Here's the mount I made, got it all clamped in there. Hopefully this works okay. This is just where I randomly tacked the mounting tubes. I'll just run a bolt and a nut through there, and then we'll drill and tap this plate, and then put our fuel sump. Our universal fuel sump will bolt to this. No! All good. That one is pretty close. So this is my mount all welded up. My TIG welds came out okay. I'm no pro TIG welder, so I think this is probably the most thin stuff I've welded vertically. So I'm gonna take some material off this lower leg, and I'm gonna have to put a little angle on the sides of these so they fit in that bevel real nice. Here it is, all done. Still gotta paint it. So I'll show you what it looks like all assembled. Well, I got everything hooked up. This pressure gauge, I put this pressure gauge on here because you're gonna have to set your pressure with this sump. So it's set at 58 pounds out of the box, and we're only looking for 42 to 48, I think is what it says in the manual. So I'm just gonna put it at 47, I guess. And everything's hooked up here. I got my ground, my positive, ECU's right here. It's gonna be somewhere in this area, and the wires just kind of not tied in. Relays come with this thing. They're sitting over there. There's a fuse. Wire goes to the firewall, comes out on the other side, goes to the power side of the volts gauge because it was right there, and it comes on with the ignition. And our coolant temp sensor is right here in the side of the cylinder head. The fuel is coming from the same pipe that the fuel was going into the carburetor with. So I'm just have this set up for this the way it is now, because I want to make sure this thing starts before I go and tie everything in, because you want to make sure everything starts when it's still kind of loose, just in case you have to make some adjustments. And especially with wiring, I don't know how many times I've wired something up, got it up there, and then realized it was too long, too short, or I should have held it up to where I was putting it before I cut it, or I should have tied everything in around it before I did what I did. Just try and think ahead of everything. I have a huge pile of parts I bought brand new and have not put on things, because just like this carburetor, I got a different pipe for it and a new hose to replace this pipe here, and it had the fuel line come out the side here, and it was going to go into a T that goes to the fuel pump on the side of the block, and I did not using that stuff. So, but I opened the package, so I'm stuck with it. So maybe we'll need a Holly on something else. But this I can always move later. The nice thing about this is it doesn't have to have a returnless fuel system, so we're just going to have our inline come in the back, and then if we want to have a fuel pressure gauge, you can put it up here, you can put it on the right side, you can put it back there on the other corner. These are all, you can open any one of these corners. They're all ins or outs. If you have a Holly, it will have a fuel pressure regulator built into the back, and you can't adjust it as far as I know. So it has to have a return fuel system, so because it's always putting the excess fuel out the one side. But I was going to put this back there, but I thought for the aid of everything being new, I leave it up here in the front, and it does clear the air filter. So we'll just leave it there. That way, if I want to pop the hood and see if the fuel pressure is right, I can just look at a glance and it'll be right there. I can always, being these are AN fittings, this is an AN fitting here that came on it, and then this is an adapter that goes to a little nut looking deal where you can screw in your fuel pressure gauge, and this is just a cap. This one came with the Edelbrock kit, so did the fuel line, so did these fittings, the fuel filter, everything pretty much. So I just have what was left over. You only have to have high pressure on one side of this, but it does come with these fittings for in and out, so you might as well use the fuel line they give you. It's really good Russell 250 PSI line. So anyway, I just ran from the pipe that goes to the carburetor, and then instead of going to the carburetor, now it's just going into this line, and that's going to the inside of this, and the inside will feed a little something here, and there's a float with a high pressure fuel pump, and it comes out this line, goes through our filter, and then goes into the throttle body. And once again, you can change the fuel pressure with this right here, and this is also a vacuum regulated fuel pressure regulator. It's a vacuum regulated fuel pressure regulator. In the manual it says if you have a direct port injection like a Edelbrock ProFlow or anything that has the injectors in the manifold, you would want to have a vacuum line on this. But being we have a throttle body and our injectors are above the throttle plate up here, and the throttle plate is down there, it's squirting above them, we don't need that, it says. So, but if the injectors were down here on the side of the intake manifold and this was just an open throttle body with no fuel injectors, we would want to run a vacuum line. And this is a popular sump setup, I guess, with a ProFlow Edelbrock direct port injection. So, and it came with a pigtail here. I haven't heat shrunk these yet because, like I said, even though I'm 100% sure these are right, I'm still going to leave it not heat shrunk because you have that much more to cut off if you do have to cut this for some reason. Instead of cutting the wire to length, everything has these nice labels on the end. But if you cut it, you lose the label. So I'm just going to tie up the excess. Nothing wrong with that. It's only going like 5 foot. I mean, it's right there. So even if it's going 5 foot, it's not much. This has its own fuel pump relay, and everything here is labeled too. This one says main relay, and then the other one here is the fuel pump relay, and yes, pump relay. And I'm gonna have those right here on the side of the fender back behind our sump. So it already has a fuel pump relay. The manual does say that if you want to run, well, even though this has a relay, the manual says you can only run up to a 15 amp fuel pump. So keep that in mind. It says if it's any more than 15 amps, you need to run another relay through this relay. So keep that in mind. Now I looked up how much amps a 67 gallon per hour or 255 liter, and this is supposed to be 30 to 90 psi. So I looked up what one of those pumps, because I assume they're all the same, and those run, and everything I saw said that this one would stop at like 13.5 amps. So there's a chart that says how much flow it would be with how many amps, and there are some that draw over 15 amps, but they're a lot bigger pumps. So keep that in mind. So I pulled this plug so I could turn the engine over. So I pulled the plug so the fuel pump wouldn't run when I was cycling the key, and then I just cranked it over until we got our mechanical pump filling up the sump here, and then I put it back on and turned the key on, and now we have 50 psi. So we'll go ahead and back that off a little bit. But the good news is we have no leaks. I don't see any leaks. I don't smell any gas. Whoop-a-ba! I checked the throttle position sensor. I'll go into some of the advanced settings on the monitor. It is very easy to navigate. I'm pretty impressed so far. Well, I got a whiff of the throttle bodies, and there's some fuel in there. I adjusted my fuel pressure. It's about 48 to 50 right now, and it says we need a minimum of 42 to 48 to operate. So we should be pretty close. And charger's on it. Hopefully that'll be enough. Nah, 12.1. We're gonna have to wait for the battery to charge. Says I'm not getting any crank. Well, I had no power to my coil. Nothing to do with this. Hopefully that's all fixed now. Exciting. That was easy. belt cable hooked up, so I can't romp it any in here. See, our idle is a little high. Change things on that one. Pretty cool little handheld. I like how big the screen is. Well, we didn't have to do too much to get to that. About 13 to 14 on an idle, high 13s. Yeah, it's still learning. Went down even more. I got a little grip to my bent here. No big deal. But I do have a little grip. Oh, it's probably because it's not much higher than the thing. I'm going to consider that a win, so thanks for watching again. Hobbies and Hot Rods. Stay tuned, we'll have more.